This video raises from me messing up badly on quarter goals when I set them to be, some of them very practical and some of them non-practical. And the main mistake I made was that I said, okay, so I said this, I want to do this quarter goal. But, okay, I have it. Yeah, that's fine, and it should be out as this, okay? But the next step in the process is to identify the problems that you have and not tolerate them. Like, how do you practically really have to do on each month so that you can achieve those goals? And if you can do those, if you cannot do those things, then you have to find a way to achieve the goals. And so it doesn't just go that you set a goal like, oh, I'll do this, and then you get confident. You should be confident, yes, but you have to get down to the practicality of the thing that you're gonna do. And so you can set the high goal, like, I'm gonna do this is bold. But after you've done that, the next step in the process is to get down to practicality on what leverage do you have, what resources do you have, and how fast do you know, like how well do you know the steps. If you don't know them, you're like pretty messed up. So you have to find out the steps on how to really get to that goal. I have to get down to the practicality. And the goal setting process goes, you set 3-year goal, which is the bold and audacious, like crazy goal that what you're gonna achieve. Then the second one is that you set annual goal, which is you work backwards from the audacious goal and what you have to achieve on each year. And then you have your annual. Then you want to set quarter goal, 1 quarter at a time. And then you simply think that, like, okay, what do we have to achieve in this quarter in order for us to achieve the annual goal? And here is the trick. Here's the mistake that I made and how to fix it. Is that on this now you set the quarter goal, like what do we have to achieve in this quarter? What will really happen here? You visualize, you see it in your mind. What will happen? And but then once you set that, then you really have to get down to practicality. So, okay, you know that you have a goal. Then you have to identify what problems do you have. What are the obstacles that you have to solve before getting to that quarter goal? Okay. And here is the important part. You cannot tolerate any of those problems. So you have to solve all of them. You cannot leave them like, you cannot think like, oh, I'll solve it later. No, definitely not. You have to solve it like right now. You have to get practical on how the fuck can you, how will you really solve that thing. And then only you can move to the next step, which is like you got even more depth on designing the plan, like what will happen, per month. And then the monthly is even more practical. So you have to know like what will really happen there, and like how will it happen. You have to see it in your mind. And between the quarter and monthly goals, the way to identify problems like 3x faster and really see the problems that you have before you don't tolerate them is that you use inverse thinking. So you think like, okay, so these are our goals. How could I absolutely make sure that I will not achieve these goals? And once you know those steps, like how will you guarantee that you will not achieve those goals, then you do the opposite. Then you plan a solution, like how will you make sure that you won't mess up this part, and what do you really have to do in order to achieve that. So you diagnose the problem. Then monthly is working backwards from the quarterly, and there you get really practical on what will really happen, what specifically will happen. And here I use synthesis and prioritization and practicality to design the goals. Same process. What are the problems that I have to solve in this month in order to achieve the quarter goals? and then how I will solve them. Getting down to practically using inverse thinking to identify the problems first, and then designing for the problems. And then you design a plan on how you will do it, and the plan is more sort of weekly based, monthly based. And the last step in the process, what you have to handle well, is to execute the plan, which is about more of the weekly and daily goals. And so the daily is like extremely practical, and you have to know exactly what happens by hour. Every single night you set the goal, like what will happen tomorrow hour by hour. And in the morning, before you start, you set like hourly goals, and in that time you like extreme practicality, like you know exactly what happens by minute. And then once you execute, you cannot change the plan. Very important. So if you messed up the plan, what you can do is that you write down, okay, so like I learned this thing today, like what happened today, I messed up this thing, okay, and in the evening you review and you check like what did you learn from that. But you cannot change the plan. This is a huge mistake that I made. Like, I'm very visionary. I'm not an executor by default. That's where I'm weak, where I was weak, where I'm still a little bit weak. You cannot change the plan. You have to be just executor. Just do the thing that what you have to do. And you don't like visualize. You don't plan that much when you execute. You only execute. The main message here is that annual and 3-year goal are like bold and audacious. 3-year goal is bold and audacious. Annual goal is just a breakdown of the 3-year goal. Quarter goal is working backwards from the annual goal, and here you get really practical on what resources do you have, what leverages do you have, like after you set the quarter goal, like then you like what will really happen there, you know. And easy way to identify your problems is to use inverse thinking. So you think, how will you completely mess up this part of the process? What do you have to do to mess up really bad? Like you have this 1 quarter goal, how could you mess up really bad? Okay, then you set them, and then it's time to execute. And the monthly goal is breaking down the quarter to achieve that. And then you get even more practical on what will really happen, counting the heads, counting the money, how will those things move. You have to visualize, see it, and get, again, you use inverse thinking. And then weekly goals are working backwards from the monthly goals, and like what will happen day level, what will happen on weekly level, and then weekly goals are working backwards, the monthly, and then daily goals are working backwards from the weekly goals. And the more day-to-day level you get, the more practical you get, the more specific you get on what will happen. And the more high level you are, the better you have to be at visualizing, prioritizing, and really seeing the stuff happen. And you have to be bold. Yeah. The takeaway is to use inverse thinking to identify your problems, and then find the most practical and synthesize to have solutions for those problems that you have.